Thank you for coming, everybody that's here and online. This is our retirement seminar, so we set this up for you to just kind of ask questions, get a little bit more information about what retirement's going to look like for you. We'll have 4 agencies that are here. Paul Liam from Voya is going to be our first presenter. He's about a half an hour. We'll do a little Q&A after each presenter. So I do ask that if you do have a question, and since it's a small crowd, just raise your hand, let me know, and I'm going to give you the mic. This is, as you can see, this is all being recorded. So we want to use this for people that aren't able to be here or online. And so the best way to catch the audio is going to be by using the mic. So if you don't mind, if you have a question and stuff, I'll come out and give you the mic and stuff. You can just talk into the mic. After that, I think we have Social Security after that.
Retiree healthcare.
Retiree healthcare, New Mexico retiree healthcare, then Social Security, then para. Again, we'll do a Q&A after each presenter. And we'll do a general kind of Q&A at the very end as well. So, but like I said, I kind of want this to be an open forum too, though, just because I know there's a lot of questions out there. Going out to the stations and talking to the guys or all of our members, there's a lot of misinformation out there regarding each of these entities. So I want to try and get as much of that cleared up as possible for those that are going to be coming up on retirement, and then just good information going through your career and stuff. So if anybody that's earlier in their career want to view this, they have some information. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Paul, and we're going to get yes. I did hit the record. I will hit record. Okay. Yeah. With that, Paul.
All right.
Thanks,
Gary. Thanks for setting this up, too. This is a lot of good information, and not all entities do this. So you get a lot of information at the same place, because, again, there's a lot of misinformation out there, so it's better to get it from the source. So, again, thank you for putting this together, and thank you guys for all you do. We appreciate what you do for us. It's a very, very important job. So, again, I've seen most of you guys before. My card is part of that. Oh, did I pack up? Will you pass out packets? So I passed out some information. I think that I sent a link, so that should be available for you guys as well, but it's just an enrollment guide. My card is in there as well. Most of you guys have that already. The front of my card says I live in California. That's my boss's address. We're work from home. So I'm here, I'm out and about. So if you ever need me to come by the station, I am more than happy to do that. It's been a while since we did a blitz where I hit all the different shifts and stations, but maybe we can get one of those going here soon as well, too. So most of you guys are in this plan already. I did a project with Ryan either a year ago or 2 years ago. He gave me a list of all the firefighters, and I matched it up with what we had. I think you guys were about 85%, which is actually a pretty good number. In my mind, I think 100% is the number I'm looking for, but 85 is pretty good. So most of you guys are involved in the plan already. I'll give you a brief overview. If you have questions, I'm more than happy to dig deeper. But since this is a retirement-related meeting, I'll touch on some other things that are more important. But basically what you guys have here is a 457B. Most people are not familiar with that, but everybody's heard of a 401k before. It's very similar. The different numbers are just the tax codes that cover the plans. So basically that number determines who's allowed to participate. So 401k is private sector, 403B is schools, hospitals, nonprofits. What you guys have is a 457, and that's for state and municipal employees. So the big advantage with this plan over all those others is that this is tied to employment, not age. So the second you guys leave, that money is available without a penalty. It does not have the 59.5 rule that all those other plans have. So if you think about it, it's really designed for you guys and police, because you tend to retire earlier. So no waiting period. The second you leave, that money is available without a penalty. So you have a tax advantage way of doing this. So you get to choose when you want that tax break. So if you've been in the plan for a while, the way this plan's been since the 80s is a pre-tax version of the plan. So you decide how much you want to contribute. That is taken out of your check pre-tax. So it's not a dollar for dollar reduction in your take-home pay. You're getting the tax break in the current year as you contribute it. So you contribute more, but you will be taxed at the end. So the county, about 4 years ago when we switched carriers from Nationwide to Voya, they did it at the same time, but they added a Roth provision. So Roth is after tax. So in that situation, you will pay the taxes up front. You invest that money, it grows tax-free. At the end, you will pull it out tax-free. So it doesn't accumulate as quickly because you pay the taxes up front, but it's tax-free. So I think having some of both is not a bad way to go about it, but you have the normal max is $23,000. You can split that between the two. You can have all Roth, all pre-tax, but that is the regular max. You can choose how you want to do it. So when we do the new Cadet Academy, I think the Roth makes a lot of sense. I think the younger you are, the earlier you are in your career, the more sense it makes, because if your salary is going to go up over time, pay the taxes down while it's lower. But if you're in your highest earnings years, you may want the pre-tax. Lower it now when you're going to be in a lower tax bracket when you retire. I'm not a tax accountant, but if you have an account, ask your person when you take it in how much they're putting in there and should be using pre-tax or Roth, and they'll give you an answer at the end of the year. Two arguments for the pre-tax are going to be, number one, buying service credit, and Christina will talk about that in a little bit, so I'll again go to the source. I'll let her talk about buying the service credit, but if you guys are going to buy forfeited time, airtime, or military service, if you use the pre-tax version of this plan, it's tax-free. And they actually include our form right there with the paperwork, so it's a pretty streamlined process. But again, if you're interested in buying service credit, you want to use the pre-tax version of this plan. The other use for the pre-tax is going to be your sick and vacation hours. The amount of sick and vacation is unbelievable. It's almost a year's worth of salary in a lot of cases. So at the end, there's two right answers and one wrong answer. So if you want to early out, I'm completely fine with that. That way you're on the county insurance for another year. The other answer is to roll into deferred comp, because you'll pay the FICA. You guys don't do Social Security, but Medicare amounts, any FICA amounts, you will pay that, but you're going to avoid that bonus factor. Because if you take the wrong answer is taking that check directly, because that's a big number, they annualize it, there's a bonus factor. So if you take that directly, they're going to tax you about 44%. So either early out or roll those sick and vacation balances into your deferred comp. Yeah, speak up if you guys have questions.
If you're going to roll that into your deferred comp, would you roll it into the pre-tax or post-tax?
Pre-tax. That's the argument. The other practice for pre-tax. Yeah, Roth doesn't help you. I don't even think they allow it, but it would be pre-tax that you want to use.
Okay. And when you say tax-free on the Roth, you're speaking to the tax-free, basically the money that you're putting into the 457B, not the dividends that are being paid out when you accumulate.
It's all tax-free.
So it's all tax-free?
Correct.
So even
you have all that tax-free growth for sure. That's the argument. So that's why the younger you are, the more years of tax-free growth you have.
So when you go into a Roth and you put in, let's say, 1,000, I'm just using straight numbers. You put $1,000 into your Roth, and I accumulate $500 over, so I have $1,500 in my Roth. I do not pay taxes on the $500.
You would pay in one situation, you would pay gains if you have had that account less than 5 years and you're below age 59 and a half. That would be the only time that you pay taxes, and it would just be the gains.
So before 59 and a half.
Correct.
You'll pay
so once you're past 59 and a half in 5 years, there's no
it's all tax-free.
Gains. It's kind of a penalty, kind of like your 59 and a half rule on the other plans.
Okay.
That applies there, but it only be on the gain amount too. So it's a much lower amount, but if it's past 5 years and 59, you don't have anything.
All right, thank you.
But you are taxed on it when you put it into the Roth, correct?
Roth, you pay on the way in. So that's why when you're young, if your salary's low, pay it now. If your salary's going to go up, do that. But if you're in your highest earnings years, it may make sense to take the pre-tax, lower it now, because you're probably going to be in a lower tax bracket when you take it out. And at the end of the day, a combination of the two is probably the way to go about it. There's not one right answer unless you talk to your accountant and know that exact number. But we don't know what tax codes are going to be when you retire, so we don't even know what that number is. With all the debt and everything out there, they tend to go up, right? We know that, but which is another argument for the Roth. But having some of both, I don't think is a bad way to go about it at all. The one thing to be careful, though, is if you convert that pre-tax to a Roth, you want to be very strategic about it, because in the year you do that, you'll be taxed on that full amount. So you want to be careful there, maybe do it gradually over time, but that is an option. But just be aware you will pay taxes as you convert it.
What is the largest amount you can do a Roth on?
It's the regular, and I was going to go into the other max too, but the regular max, so anybody that makes at least $23,000 for this year, I don't have next year's max. I was actually looking earlier because I thought I might see them today. They usually come out by November, but I haven't seen them yet. Everything I've heard says it's going to go up by $500, but the regular max is $23,000. So you could put it all in Roth, you could put it all in pre-tax.
Is that per year?
Per year, for 2024.
Okay, so you can't do more than one Roth a year?
One Roth.
So if you want to open numerous accounts?
You can. This is the primary plan. So if you're, depending on your income, that may limit your IRA amount you can put in there. But this is the primary plan. You can put in up to $23,000 here. It can be all Roth, pre-tax combination of the two.
Okay.
So since we're talking about max, that is the regular max. So as long as you make, because you can put 100% of your income up to the 23,000. At age 50, they give you a little bonus. So you get an extra 7,500. So if you're over age 50, you get to put in 30,500. Now it's going to get kind of confusing too. So starting in 2026, so not this year, the following year, if you use that over age 50 provision, that difference, the 23,000 up to the 30,500, will have to go to a Roth. That's a new IRS rule with Secure Act 2.0, so that will start in 2026. So you guys were really early to the party as far as adopting that Roth. They did it immediately, but we have a lot of entities that have not done that. City of Albuquerque being one, where it's going to cause some problems because you have a lot of people that are making over 145,000, so they're going to have that Roth provision. So we're kind of scrambling to get those people on board, but you guys have that. So keep that in mind. The over age 50 portion will have to go to a Roth. They're actually adding an over 60 provision next year too. So it's going to be, I have to look at my cheat sheet. That's because it's not even an option yet. But the 60 provision will give you basically 150% of that 7,500. So that's 11,250. If they had it this year, if you were over age 60, you'd be able to put in 34,250. So that's a new preview of things to come. That will start January 1. I'll be able to give you those numbers here soon. I thought I would have them today, but they have not announced them yet. Like I said, everybody says, everything I've read and heard, it seems like they're going to increase them by about $500. So the next one, when we start talking about sick and vacation hours, is very important too. So there's a special catch-up. So you got to love it. Four different catch-up versions. But this will allow you to go back and find years that you did not contribute the max. So once you're within 3 years of retirement, if we find those dollars, we can actually put in double the regular max, or 46,000 for 3 consecutive years. So with your guys' leave balances, a lot of times we're going to need to do that. So when we get close to that time, the first thing I'm going to ask is your salary, the number of hours we're going to try to convert, and then we'll figure out the next steps. But we have 46,000 for 3 consecutive years. So because of those large leave balances, what the county does, the city, county, and water authority, they will allow you, if you retire the last pay period of the year, they're going to make sure you're maxed out for this year. So we have that full 46 for this current calendar year. Your last check does not come till January. So that's a whole other 46,000. So we may, or most likely will have up to 92,000 worth of sick and vacation to roll in at the end to use that catch-up provision.
So with that 3 years, you don't have to, you may not retire, but you can use those 3 years.
Correct.
Once you reach retirement.
Correct. Once you're within 3 years of your eligible retirement, defined by parent. And you're age in service, so it's a really, really wide open number.
Okay. So you can do that at any
time. And you don't have to retire. That doesn't mean you have to retire too. So
but you can only do it for 3 years.
3 consecutive years, correct. So if you use it 1 year, you don't use it the next year, you still lose that year. So it's 3 consecutive years. That's why most people choose to do it at the end of their career. That way we get your leave balances in. But we have to elect, this plan is based on age plus service. It's not just age. So most plans have a normal retirement age, so you can't really use that in that last year. But with this, it has nothing to do with when you actually retire. So we'll cross that bridge when we get there. I'll do most of the work. Again, your first job is going to be give me your hours, your rate of pay. Then the next step, if we use the catch-up provision, I'm going to ask you for the last 5 years of W-2 or your last pay stub of the year. I had one guy, he got all the pay stubs for the last 5, no, just the last pay stub of the year. Because basically I need to know what you made and what you put into deferred comp. And we'll cross that bridge. But that's going to be your homework assignment. Once you get me that information, I'll do most of the work for you, and it's pretty easy from there.
So if you roll your accrual balances, into your deferred comp, when is the soonest that you can access those dollars without penalties? At 59 and
Nope, there's no 59.5 rule on this.
Okay.
So the second so the two things that have to happen is you have to be closed out on the system. Most entities upload the termination information to Voya. Bernalillo County doesn't. So either call me, I'll need your name, the last 4 of your social, and the date you retired. I'll send that to Para, because we have a deferred comp manager at Para, so she can look you up and see that you're terminated on the Para system. We'll get you closed out on the Voya system. And we have to wait for the last contribution to hit your account. Because your account is either open, meaning you accept contributions, or it's closed where we can pay you out. It's not in between. So we have to have both. We want to make sure the account's open for that sick and vacation time to hit. As soon as that hits your account, Close
And
it
then
out
once you
take
do
that.
once you do the payout and you close it out, what is the tax on that amount?
It'll be ordinary income as you take it out
Ordinary
for the
income.
pre-tax. Obviously, we talked about Roth. Roth is, you already paid it, so there's no tax consequence there, assuming 5 years, 59 and a half. But you will pay ordinary income as you take it out.
Okay.
Good question. So that's
Can you continue to contribute to Voya?
That's the one thing you can't do. So you have full control of that money. You can take all of it, some of it, monthly payment, go back and change that. So from the time you leave until age 75, it's 73 now, but they're stepping it up to age 75. So by the time you guys hit it, at age 75, you have to begin what they call minimum distributions. You haven't paid Uncle Sam yet. You had all that tax. He wants you to retire, but he wants to get paid as well. So at age 75, he steps in and says, you know what? You need to start what you call minimum distributions, which is roughly 4% the first year, and it increases from there.
But you can do that starting.
You can start, yeah, so you can do whatever you want. So if you're not taking enough out at age 75, we're going to send you a letter saying, hey, you need to take out this amount, and we're going to send it to you in the middle of December unless you tell us something else.
So if we're going on terminal leave, using our sick leave, and does that count as us still being employed with the county, or will we
Correct,
have?
yes, it does.
So we won't have access.
You don't
to
have
that.
access until you are officially off the books.
Gotcha.
That's a good question. Yeah, I get that all the time. I'm glad you brought it up.
And a follow-up to that same question. So if you're actually terminal at that point, but you're still contributing, you're able to max out your contributions during that time frame to be able to
Correct.
just get in as much. And then what is the window that we're looking for that annual marker of 26,000? Is that county fiscal year, or is that actually calendar?
It's calendar year.
Calendar year, so January to January.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Couple other things. That's good questions. If you have more questions, speak up. What else are you talking about? So our main thing, those are the two things I wanted to cover, the Roth, the pre-tax, the overview. Aside from that, the main thing
So with the money that we have in Voya, you said we could do anything we want to do with it till basically age 75. So if we have other retirement plans or other investments, can we basically pull that money out and distribute in other places?
you can, but that rule is going to apply to all the plans. So you're not going to get around it by doing that.
Okay.
That's the light bulb always goes, I'll move it to my IRA. It's like, well, same rules apply to those. So you're
Okay.
not going to get around it. So my general rule with you guys, because you retire so young, because this plan doesn't have a 59 and a half, we'll leave it here until you're 59 and a half. If you have something else, you can absolutely move it. But it's accessible with a phone call here. If you move it to a new plan, it will take on the new rules. So you will have that 59 and a half on it. So that's my general rule. Leave it here until 59 and a half. If you found a better plan, which is hard to do. I mean, this is a really cost-effective plan. But if you have something you like better, whatever, you can roll it at that point. But I would keep the accessibility until you're 59 and a half, leave it.
That makes sense.
So you're saying leave it, not draw down any of
You could draw it. It's up to you how you want to do it too. You know, the last few years I've been kind of discouraging people because the last year has actually been great, but we're kind of climbing out of this trough we've been in. So in down markets, you really don't want to take that money out if you could avoid it, because it's going to have a really negative effect on your account long term. So that was the next thing I wanted to talk about too. So one of the things we're going to want to talk about to meet when you leave is we want to look at your allocation. You know, they added those target date funds a while back, so most of you guys are probably in those, which are awesome because they systematically make changes for you. So without you doing anything, they're automatically getting safer. But if you've had that account for a while and you've never gone back and looked at it, chances are you're going to be way more aggressive than you should be. Because the idea is while you're young, you can ride the ups and downs in the market, and a downturn in the market's actually a good thing, but because you're buying more shares. But when you get close to retirement, the last thing we want is another 2008, right before we take that money out, because that will have devastating impacts on your account. We won't be able to recover it. So that's the other thing we want to look at. As far as I'm concerned, our sick and vacation is the most time sensitive. We'll want to look at allocations, and I can feel Christina staring at me. The other thing is beneficiaries. We want to make sure that your beneficiary is up to date, because if their first name is X, you probably don't want them as a beneficiary, right? Because we have to pay who's ever on that form. So those are the three key things that we need to talk about. But aside from that, the ball's in your court. There's no rush on any of that other stuff. We'll send you a check whenever you want. First payment does take about 2 weeks because they're setting up the bank information. But after that, it's really quick.
Can we change beneficiaries today, or do we have to wait for the annual?
Give me your emails. I'll email you a form. Okay. I didn't bring in beneficiary forms with me.
Okay.
So if you give me a name. If you have a pen, you can scribble on the, just write beneficiary and then give me your name and email address and I'll send that to you later. Yeah, if anybody else has that. I only got one more thing. Ask questions if there's only one more thing I got to talk about. And I think, how are we doing on time? We're good. I know. I saw you had 20 minutes. I can get that back. I can get that.
So I did have a quick question about if you go out, you're terminaled out, and now you've retired, right? But you're leaving that money in there until 59 and a half, right? So just to get the best out of it, what's that money what's that money doing in the meantime? Is that
it's
continuing
invested,
to work
so you
within
still
that?
have full control of the investments.
Okay, so we'd still be able to go in there and change any investments. If we were on a more aggressive route, we could go to a little bit more of a conservative if we started seeing
sure.
things in the market.
And that
we
is the
didn't like to-
recommended strategy, right? I
Absolutely.
have people that do it opposite. It's your money. You can do whatever you want, but textbook is going to say the closer we are to retirement, the safer we are, because we don't want all that volatility before we take it out.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
And we do have a brokerage window too. So, we have the core lineup. Most of you guys are in those target date funds, which make it simple, because if you don't have time or desire to run your portfolio, that's a great way to do it. But we have about 25 funds. They're shifting that lineup. It's going to be a lot more passive funds. I don't have a time date on that. I just saw an email going through, so that's a preview of things to come. But that will come from Para. So when we have more information, they'll put that out to you. But we do have a brokerage window as well. So if you're really hands-on, you can actually run stocks through this thing. So
we got a couple questions on the chat here,
perfect.
if you don't mind. Irizarry asked, when separated, can you borrow from account or
Good
only
question.
withdrawal?
Good question. Yes, you can. Most plans don't allow you to do that, and I've had the call center. And again, let me go back to the card too. So if you have questions, don't ask them. They handle a lot of plans, and they understand 457 rules in general. But as you can tell, this plan has a lot of specific nuances that most plans don't have. So if you have questions, call me. But the short answer to your question is yes. This is one of the few plans that will allow you to still use the loan provision even in retirement, because a loan is not a taxable event. So if I need to buy a truck, but I really don't want to take the tax hit this year. You can borrow it. You're paying yourself back the principal and the interest, but that is not a taxable event. So when you finally take that distribution, that age 75 we were talking about, at that point they make you start taking the distribution, so you can't just avoid paying the taxes the whole way through. But yes, but the long answer there is if you call, I had people call them and say, you can't take a loan because you're separated service. That's not the correct answer. So in that case, you have to call them back again, or I will send a nasty email to somebody. But that is a good question.
I think the other one will be more on the Para side.
Can I ask a question about FOIA?
Yeah.
So when you retire,
I've only got one more thing, and it's going to be short. So you guys ask as many as you want.
sorry, when you retire, or even if you're in the service, how much can you borrow against
So
your?
the loan, okay, I didn't go. Yeah, that's from the beginning, so I didn't cover the loan. But the loan, you can borrow half your account up to $50,000, and that's for calendar year. So it will be the low point for that year. So if you have a loan, you pay it off. To get another one out, you won't be able to do the full 50 because that outstanding balance you had will count against it. If that makes sense.
And how long do you have to pay it back?
5 years.
5 years.
If it's a home, it's 10 years. First time home is 15 years, but it's always half up to 50,000.
And just for clarification, I know this, but for anybody that's online watching, so if you did decide to withdraw some of those funds to buy other time back for retirement, such as utilizing that money to purchase service credits from wherever else, that then doesn't actually count as a loan, right?
That is not a loan.
And
That's a
it's no
distribution,
penalties.
correct.
It's just a distribution. Okay, so
And it's tax-free, so you don't even get a 1099 in that.
Right.
I don't think. If you get it, it would say zero tax
so you
liability.
can just
if you
use
don't.
that money from the deferred comp to buy additional time through Para, and then
Correct.
you're Scott.
And I tell everybody, if you're gonna buy service credit, the earlier you buy it, the less expensive it's gonna be. But I would at least consider using the pre-tax version of deferred comp, because again, Uncle Sam's not much of a giver, so take advantage of that tax-free situation. It is expensive, so if there's a reason to do it, do it. If not, don't just buy it to buy it. We had a guy talking about that yesterday. I said, why? If you don't have a reason to get out, that's a lot of money. But at the end of the day, it's years of your life. So if you're gonna buy it, the sooner, using deferred comp are my two takeaways on that.
So when you do borrow against your loan, can you distinguish between the Roth IRA and the 457?
You don't get a choice. I think they do. That's a good question. I'm gonna have to write your phone number down. I'm gonna have to get back to you on that one. I think it's pro rata. I don't think you have I know you don't have a choice. They're gonna take it, but they may take some out of Roth, may take some out of pre-tax. But I know the aggregate amount is the amount you can borrow. So actually, I don't know how that mechanics works, if they would use pre-tax or a combination of the two. I'll get back to you. That's a good question. I don't get stumped very often. And more questions? Last thing, and not many people do this, and I don't know why. So we try to get the word out there, but sworn officers, so you guys, police, corrections, game and fish guys can do it too. But it's part of the 845 provision, but there's a 402 provision that allows you to use up to $3,000 towards healthcare premiums. So when you retire, and that again, that would be tax-free too. So I got a couple of the forms. So when you retire, that $3,000 will go to retire healthcare or whoever your provider is, and it's tax-free. So put that on the back burner. That's definitely good use because we know, well, I'm not going to spoil the show, but we know there's a big cost involved with that. So $3,000 tax-free is a good approach to it as well.
That's a year?
Per year, correct. And it's just a lump sum. So we send it to retire healthcare or whoever the provider is, and then they adjust the premium. So put it on the back burner. I actually include it with that presentation. So I've got the forms if you need them. Pretty self-explanatory. Who are you? Who's your provider? And then we'll make that happen.
Paul, say that again about the healthcare from the beginning. I'm sorry.
So you can use up to $3,000 of your deferred comp towards healthcare premiums. And again, this is an argument for pre-tax as well, right? Because if we did Roth, we already paid that. So we can still use that bucket of money, but we can use up to $3,000 from our deferred comp to pay for healthcare premiums, and that would be tax-free.
While you're still employed?
Once you leave, once you have retired. Yeah, good point. Oh, there's my notes. So I'll get back to you with that answer. That was a good question. All right, is there any other questions for me? Again, thank you for all you do. As you get closer to retirement, let me know if you have questions. Again, I'm more than happy to swing by the station. So if you have a few guys that have questions, let me know. I'm more than happy to do that. Congratulations on getting closer to retirement. And again, thanks for putting this on.
Yeah, thank you.
All right,
Appreciate it.
thank you.
Thank you.